All right, I have a 49ers injury update for you. And as you might imagine, this is a big one because the 49ers have been suffering a lot of injuries lately. But there is good news. Good news definitely came on Monday, I think, when you look at the situation on the aggregate. So we're going to go through this player by player, make it as simple as possible, bring some organization to the mess that is the 49ers injury report. First off, you already see it here at the bottom of the screen. Charvarius Ward, 49ers cornerback, is day-to-day with his groin injury. He exited it after about 20 plays against the Atlanta Falcons, and it is huge that the 49ers potentially get Ward back this week against Patrick Mahomes and Ward's former team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They do not want to be down their top cornerback against Mahomes and that offense. So Ward is day-to-day. Kyle Shanahan indeed sounds hopeful that Ward will be ready to play for the 49ers against Kansas City. Also, it seemed like good news on Mike McGlinchey. He had a calf contusion. He is day-to-day, just like Charvarius Ward. Shanahan hopeful that McGlinchey is back against the Atlanta Falcons. The 49ers initially played Blake Hance, but Blake Hance really wasn't very good. There were two plays on which Blake Hance came into this game. The only one on which the 49ers passed was the second touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. And if you go back and watch the tape, Hance gets beaten really badly by Arnold Ebiketie, the Penn State product, who just roared around that right tackle spot. And the next time that the 49ers needed a backup right tackle, because McGlinchey did come back into the game for a series, but in the second half, once McGlinchey was not able to continue, the 49ers didn't go back to Blake Hance. They went to Daniel Brunskill, and that's something that we'll talk about more, especially if McGlinchey isn't able to go moving forward. But McGlinchey is day-to-day. Good chance he returns against the Chiefs. And here's even bigger news. Trent Williams, who's been out now for several weeks since the Denver game, with the high ankle sprain, has a solid chance to return against Kansas City. Remember that the 49ers did not put Williams on injured reserve after his injury happened because they were holding out hope that he'd be able to return before 4 weeks were up. And that was all in anticipation of this big game against Kansas City. So Trent Williams has a shot. Kyle Shanahan said it's definitely a much better shot than this past week. So that's all the information that we have right now. But I do think that the 49ers have secretly been hoping for several weeks now that Trent Williams would be able to return for this game against the Chiefs. And he has been running. So I think the signs on that front are good. Now, more negative news for the 49ers, because we can't do a 49ers injury report without some bad news, right? It just wouldn't be according to tradition. And the bad news this time is that Talanoa Hufanga is in the concussion protocol. Now, this is a bit of a funky situation, and I'm sure a sensitive topic, especially given all that had happened in Miami just a couple weeks ago, and the NFL really, I think, tightening the screws on some of this concussion protocol stuff. But Hufanga, if you remember, exited the game during the first drive yesterday, went into the blue injury tent, and actually cleared a concussion test. The NFL mandates that once you take one concussion test, you have to take a total of 3. The first one, obviously, you're not going to take more than one if you fail the first one. But if you keep on passing them, you have to take and pass a total of 3. Hufanga passed the first test in the blue injury tent. Then he passed the second mandated test after the game yesterday in Atlanta. But he came into the 49ers facility this morning with concussion-like symptoms, and he failed the mandated third test. So Talanoa Hufanga is now back in the concussion protocol, but I hope that that explains why he continued playing yesterday, because he passed 2 concussion tests on Sunday, but he obviously didn't pass the one on Monday. So the 49ers hoping that Hufanga feels better and passes the concussion protocol this week. More bad news for the 49ers. I asked Kyle Shanahan if Eric Armstead might be close to returning, and Kyle Shanahan said no. He said that he'd be very surprised if Eric Armstead returned against Kansas City. Now, remember, the 49ers' other very large defensive tackle, Javon Kinlaw, is also out against Kansas City. And I guess I shouldn't firmly rule Armstead out, but it's very unlikely. Kinlaw is certainly out against Kansas City because the 49ers placed him on injured reserve on Saturday. And that means that he must miss at least 4 games. A massive part of the 49ers' issues in this past game against Atlanta was their defensive tackle position. In fact, the 3 lowest graded 49ers per Pro Football Focus who played at least 10 snaps on defense were their 3 defensive tackles: Akeem Spence, Hassan Ridgeway, Kevin Givens. Today I asked Kyle Shanahan, what did you think of your tackle play And he didn't, I mean, you could tell that he wasn't happy with it. The start of Kyle's answer was, we got worn down. So whenever you ask Kyle about how somebody played, if the first words out of his mouth are, we got worn down, oh, that means he knows that it was a problem. And it is a problem for the 49ers. They need big, long, strong bodies at that defensive tackle position, or they're going to get run over. And they got run over against the Atlanta Falcons. They got out-muscled at that line of scrimmage. So no Armstead. That's tremendously bad news for the 49ers if he's not able to come back against the Chiefs. And the 49ers, they might have to sign outside help at defensive tackle. They did sign T.Y. McGill to the practice squad last week. Maybe he helps out. I mentioned Ndamukong Suh a little bit earlier today. We'll see if something like that might come to fruition. But it does seem to be, given these injuries, that defensive tackle position does seem to be in a bad spot right now. And the 49ers better fix it quick. Other injuries for the 49ers, more minor. Most of this is day-to-day stuff. Charlie Werner for the 49ers is an AC sprain. That's an AC joint in his shoulder. He is listed as day-to-day. Shanahan hopes to get him back here against the Chiefs. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles has some knee tendonitis, but Shanahan said that he should be fine. Drake Jackson has a knee sprain, listed as day-to-day. It also sounded like he's going to be fine. And Sensum Ebukam on the injury list with the same issue that he faced last week, and that's from the turf. That's an Achilles tendonitis from the turf, but he obviously was able to play in this game on Sunday against the Falcons, and I would expect that he'd be available for the 49ers against the Chiefs. If we want to summarize, well, why don't we open this up? Here is the 49ers spreadsheet, the injury report, and this is color-coded because I know it's a complicated situation. Well, this should help you make sense of it. If you want to check this out, go to the chat section, click on the link. I have a direct link to the spreadsheet, which is a depth chart and a roster and everything that you need, and an injury report for you. The pink means that a player is hurt. The red over here in this column on the right means injured reserve. Pink means that there is some form of injury afflicting the 49ers that's not yet on injured reserve. So as you can see, there is a lot of pink, and that is not good for the 49ers. You can go, I mean, some of these guys are recovering. Tyler Kroft was close to coming back last week, but Charlie Werner, fresh addition. However, I think Werner's going to be okay sooner rather than later. You have more high-profile names like Trent Williams down here. He's got a solid chance to return versus Kansas City. Move down to Mike McGlinchey, who is now listed in pink. He is day-to-day with the calf contusion issue. Everybody's going to be wondering about Nick Bosa. Well, I have Bosa highlighted right here. Bosa was close to playing in this football game for the 49ers against Atlanta, or at least he had a chance to play. I really think that Bosa will have a high chance to play against the Chiefs. To me, it seems that the 49ers were holding him out on the artificial turf, but they're back on natural grass against the Chiefs. And along those lines, Jason Verrett. We'll check back in on Verrett's status later this week, but they shut him down at practice due to knee soreness ahead of Atlanta. And maybe Jason Verrett will feel better this week because that IR window, it's only 3 weeks long to return from injured reserve, and they already opened the practice window. So we'll have to keep our eye on Jason Verrett moving forward. All right, more of these. I said Trent Williams. We moved down. Talanoa Hufanga is now in concussion protocol, so I highlighted him in pink. Oh, here's a big one. Jimmy Ward. I forgot to type this one earlier. Jimmy Ward will have a chance to play with a cast. Boom, right here. So let's take a look at safety depth. Jimmy Ward obviously highlighted in pink, but he broke his hand and had surgery, and the hope was that the hand would look good after the surgery so he could play with a club or a cast on his arm. I asked Shanahan, does that mean he could come back this week? And Shanahan said, well, this week against the Chiefs might be a bit optimistic, but the 49ers are anticipating that Ward will be back sooner rather than later. We can take on this spreadsheet, we can take Charvarius Ward off of the injury report. He was not on the injury report today. So that's a little bit of good news for the 49ers. But as you can see across the entire, front 40 or so of this roster, there's a lot of pink. There are a lot of injuries. We could also take Robbie Gould off. That helps because Robbie Gould had full responsibilities on Sunday. I would say overall for the 49ers, Monday's injury news was positive. As you know, you couldn't do this without Charvarius Ward against Kansas City, and there's a good chance they'll have him back. You might have been able to do it without Mike McGlinchey because Daniel Brunskill, I think, can play a good tackle position. But boy, it's nice to have a chance to get him back. And then, you know, the big dogs, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, those are two of your best players, probably your best offensive player, that and Deebo Samuel with Trent Williams and Nick Bosa, your best defensive player. You're playing a team like Kansas City. You want both of those guys back, and there does seem to be a chance that the 49ers get that. Obviously, they have to wait out Talanoa Hufanga's concussion protocol. That's, you know, going to be a major theme of this week, and they have to wait out some of these other day-to-day situations. And obviously, they got bad news on Eric Armstead. But for the most part, the injury news on Monday was positive for the 49ers. And it is good to see on the injury front stuff break in a direction where we get to see more players play, because this is entertainment. This is football. Regardless of which team you cheer for, you should want to see these players out on the field. And I think that everything broke in that way on Monday, and we'll keep you updated throughout the week. All right, everybody, thank you for joining in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We will talk to you all very soon. We got Lombardi's Look Back coming up and a nice article on The Athletic breaking down the 49ers loss to the Falcons, the post-mortem that's going to discuss how the 49ers can fix the issues that afflicted them in that defeat. All right, everybody, thank you, and we'll talk to you very soon. Take care.